What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video. Today, we're talking about how I got sober. Not necessarily a story video, but still an important video for me to put out. So, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And also, head over to goblin420.com and get your hands on some of the new Goblin merch. We've got new hoodies, new stickers, a lot of new fall goodies in stock, and all of it is 15% off all month long. That's right, you don't even have to enter a discount code. The discount is automatically applied upon checkout, so all you got to do is head over to goblin420.com and check out the new merch today. Big thanks in advance for that, and without further ado, let's dive right into the video. Now, I want to start this video by clarifying two things. First off, I want to make sure that it's understood that I am California sober. I'm still getting faded every day, and I take a very fair amount of mushrooms. However, compared to my prior drug use, that is a very large step in the right direction. Two, I also want to clarify that this isn't necessarily going to be a guide or a, how to get sober video, because getting sober is different for everybody, right? I know some people who were just able to kind of drop it one day. I know some people who have been trying to get sober for years and aren't able to. So don't view this as a how-to video. This is more so a video just sharing my experience and how I dropped a lot of the harder shit that I was doing. So I think it's important to start this video with a bit of a drug use timeline, right? A very brief one. I started getting fucked up when I was 15, back in high school, and I'm 23 going on 24 in less than 2 months now. So for the majority of my adult and young adult and teenage life, I was not sober. From when I started at 15, I didn't really stop except for the brief period when I was on probation when I was 18. But I wasn't really fully sober during that time. I more so just wasn't able to use every day, and I wasn't able to smoke weed. Besides that brief period, I had never really made a serious attempt to get sober because I never really felt that I needed to or wanted to. I did pretty much every commonly found drug under the sun that wasn't some really obscure research chemical. I smoked crack, I did cocaine, I did ketamine, I took a whole lot of opiates, I did Xanax and K-pins, I ventured into the psychedelics, my shrooms, my Molly, my acid. There is a lot of different substances that I have done. And, when I was younger, I kind of was a poly addict, and I always was. But when I was younger, I would do one drug at a time, I would go through a phase of trying out Xanax, and then I would move on and try out something different. I went through a pretty heavy acid phase in my junior year of high school. But back then, the reason that I did it like that is because each of these drugs was still new to me, and I was still experiencing them with a new mindset, and they were still fresh to me. As time went on, I had eventually dropped out of high school pretty much exclusively to do drugs, partially to do this YouTube stuff, but honestly the main reason was more so because I just felt like getting fucked up all day. Now, once I had dropped out of high school, I ended up getting sent to rehab by my parents for about 2 months, which didn't really do much of anything. I got out, I was on probation, and that was the only period of my life where I would have considered my drug use to be lighter, right? After that period of my life, I dropped out of high school, I finished my probation. I essentially went on a full-on, balls-to-the-wall drug rampage, because at this point, I had the freedoms of an adult. I could do pretty much whatever the fuck I wanted. My parents couldn't force me into rehab anymore, so I just said, fuck it. At that point, I also had done pretty much every drug that I was going to do. I mean, after that point in my life, after I dropped out of high school and turned 18, I had done all of the drugs that I had really wanted to, but I still wanted to keep getting fucked up every day. So my use kind of progressed from me experimenting and trying out new substances to now I just want to do any drug I can get my hands on every day. And that's when shit got really bad. That's when I started really running into problems, right? I encountered a lot of issues with my life, such as getting a DUI, which I would have never done if I wasn't getting fucked up. I was still getting in a lot of legal trouble. trouble even after I became an adult, and the legal trouble started to matter a lot more because I wasn't being charged as a minor. And from the age of, I would say, probably 18 all the way up to 22, I never really had one particular drug that I would be in a phase of. I was doing any and everything every single day. Every fucking day of my life. And it took a toll on me. It really did. When I was younger, I don't really think I noticed the impact that drugs had on me, especially mentally. I don't think I really noticed how it was affecting, the way my brain worked. But as I got older, I started to notice it a lot. Everything that I normally enjoyed doing sucked unless I was doing drugs while I was doing it. And when I was younger, I didn't notice that. But as I got older and I had more responsibilities and more adult shit to do, I realized because I was no longer able to dedicate all of my time every day to getting fucked up. If I wanted to maintain my life, I had to pay my rent. I had to pay my bills. I had to sometimes sit down and do shit that I didn't want to do. And that was something that I wasn't used to, because when I was a kid, I would just sit down and do whatever the fuck I wanted. I had to go to school that day? Fuck that. We're skipping and getting zooted, I have 3 more classes left in the day? Hell no. We're leaving early and smoking. Fuck that. But as I got older, it was finally the first time where I really had to suck it up and do shit that I didn't want to do. And normally, your average person with your average mindset would just suck it up and do those things. But I was so accustomed to getting fucked up to avoid everything that it only amplified my problems. Whenever I had to do some shit that I didn't want to do, I would be like, damn, I better get extra fucked up for this. So it became more of a part of my normal routine and something that I almost viewed as a need. No matter what drug I was doing, from coke to ketamine, I did a lot of cocaine in my adult life. That was my primary drug, but I dabbled in anything else, from coke to ketamine to Xanax, even every now and then your little opiate. I would do whatever I could get my hands on just to make sure that I didn't have to actually deal with any problems or any sort of discomfort whatsoever. As time went on, my living situation kind of deteriorated. At first, for the first couple years of my late teens, when I was 18 and 19, I still lived with my parents. But when I was 20, I got kicked out of my mom's house, probably because of the rampage of drugs I was doing, and was forced to get my own place. Now, at this point, I was making a little bit of money, definitely enough to support myself. The problem is all of that money went to drugs. So I lived in a derelict, beat-down fucking trap house where it wasn't even possible to get a functioning stove because the gas lines were fucked. Half of the outlets in the house and electricity just didn't work. There was no heat or AC, the insulation was falling apart, and the whole house was on a slant. So if you put things on a shelf, they would fall the fuck down, especially if you were on the second floor. I moved into this house and I just kept doing drugs all fucking day because as long as I had the bare essentials, a roof over my head, a bed, and some electricity, I was good to go. I didn't give a fuck. During this period of my life in the first house I lived in, I didn't pay my power bill one time. I only lived in this house for about 3 months before I moved to a new one, but I didn't pay my power bill once because it got to the point where I had to decide, do I want to pay my power bill or do I want to buy more drugs? And the choice was always buying more drugs. So I would just sit there and cross my fingers that they weren't coming to shut my power off yet. And luckily, they never did before I got the fuck out of that house. They were way too lenient with my dumb ass. But after I got out of that house, I moved into one that was slightly nicer, but still pretty beat up and had a lot of the same problems, I had no air conditioning, a lot of the windows just didn't work, some of the outlets didn't work too, a similar situation, But at this point in my life, I still was, just making enough money to get by. And as I lived in this new house and I started kind of renting out this new house and working a little harder and trying to keep up with my newly increased rent, I had started finding some success with this YouTube thing, right? I started getting some more viewers, I started making more money, and as time went on, something interesting happened. I started making more income, and normally you would see a correlated kind of increase in quality of life, right? Maybe I would get myself a nice new car, or maybe I would upgrade my living situation and move into a nicer place that actually had air conditioning and functioning locks, or maybe I would just be getting something nice for myself, or even just saving more money, just having more money. But none of that happened. When I would make more money, I would just buy more drugs. It was a weird thing with me. I would buy more drugs than I could consume. I would be buying 200 bars, 150 bars at a time. I would be buying a half ounce of Coke, an ounce of Coke at a time. I would be buying these crazy fucking quantities of shit whenever I had more money because it comforted me having it. It gave me this weird sense of peace, just having an excess of every drug on earth. I would buy drugs that I wasn't even actively doing at the time just for the sake of having them for future reference. Maybe one day I would want to do some ketamine, so let's buy a quarter ounce of it. So the last probably 2 years, maybe year and a half of my really active rampage drug use were probably quantity-wise the most aggressive drug use and the hardest binge I'd ever done in my life. And doing this every day started to really take a toll on me mentally. I was experiencing some really fucking bad paranoia, whether I was sober or not. Pretty much the entire year of 2020 and a lot of 2021, I was just a fucking tweaker. If I heard any noise outside, I'm going and I'm looking out my door. It got so bad, especially during my coke use in late 2020, that sometimes I would sit in my living room for hours with a gun in my lap, just staring at my door and turning down the TV volume to mute every time I heard even a slight bang. No matter what it was. Neighbor's car pulled up, I thought it was the cops. Gotta check the door. Someone slammed a door next door, that could have been one of my doors. They're trying to get in. Gotta look out the window. I was a tweaker, and I realized after a while of being in this stage that I was no longer enjoying myself, but I was starting to do the drugs to calm my brain down. When I was sober, my mind was all over the place at this point, you know? It was like I would wake up and I just couldn't string a fucking thought together. So I had to do a line, I had to take a Xan, I had to do something to just make me feel normal. And that's, I kind of had this oh fuck moment, you know? My actual date that I got sober, I don't know the exact date, but it was summer of 2021. So I've been sober for a little over a year now. It was late in the summer, like August, even September, so fall. Either way, it's been a little over a year now. But back in 2021, I kind of had this oh fuck moment one day. I had woke up and I was running low on shit, and I was just sitting there, and I was completely bone sober. I'd just woken up, and I was just like, dude, this shit, like, sucks, you know? My nose was all fucked up, and it hurt, and I had almost immediately gotten a nosebleed when I woke up. There was, like, some crusty blood around my nose that probably bled the night before, and I'm just sitting there like, fuck, man. Like, this isn't fun anymore, you know? Like, this sucks. I wake up, I feel like shit every day, and the drugs I'm doing don't even make me feel better anymore. They now just make me feel like less shit. And I was sitting there and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try only smoking weed today. You know, it was just, I feel like you really have to get to the point where it sucks. You know, it's not fun anymore. You quitting drugs when you're still having fun is extremely difficult, borderline impossible. But the thing is, drug addiction will always take you to a point where it's not fun anymore. And it took a long fucking time for me to get to that point. When I was younger, when I was 15, 16, I was having a blast. I wouldn't even think of quitting. I was sitting there thinking to myself, and I was that young, how do people do life sober? Like, these people are crazy. And now I sit here and I look back at how I used to live, and I ask myself, I'm like, how the fuck did I live like that, you know? I would wake up every day, broke as fuck, even though I shouldn't be, making more than enough money to support myself, yet still having not enough money for the things I wanted because drugs came first. And finally, I had that oh fuck moment where I just woke up feeling like shit, blood around my nose, I feel like a fucking hollow coffin, and I'm just like, you know what? I fucking had it, you know? I fucking had enough. So I woke up and I decided just for that day, to try just smoking. And that wasn't my last day I ever did drugs. No, the next day I did some more lines, I did some more bumps, but that day kind of started something because that whole day I went through it and all I did was get stoned. It was really fucking difficult. I had to force myself to smoke because if I didn't smoke, I felt like I was going to do something else. But as time went on, I kind of remembered that day, and I kept having more days where things just weren't fun anymore. I kept having more days where I would wake up and I would do a line and I wouldn't even feel good, or I would take a Xan and I would just be sitting there like, damn, this barely fucking hit because I'm taking a fistful of these little shits every day. And finally, after progressive days of just slowly kind of taking a day off and then doing a day back on and then taking 2 days off, I finally reached a point where I wasn't thinking about it as much. I woke up one day and it wasn't the first thing on my mind anymore. The first thing on my mind was, damn, I gotta get a bong rip. And that day was really fucking rewarding. And for the first couple months of my sobriety, throughout, honestly, not the first couple months, probably the entire rest of 2021, I had a really difficult time. It was something that I had to wake up and take it day by day and tell myself every day, like, yo, just don't get zooted today, Because thinking about the bigger picture and thinking about never doing drugs again was not going to work for me. I could not fathom that thought because at this point, my entire adult life had been spent fucked up, right? My entire adult life. And a lot of my memories that I had, my fond memories, were connected to drugs. They were getting fucked up on something. I didn't have a lot of normal, fond memories like, oh, the family gathering or, oh, going to the aquarium with my friends or whatever, My memories were of getting fucked up. And that's something that I thought about a lot. And I realized that I kind of wanted to change, Like, yeah, of course, don't get me wrong. To this very day, I'll still take some shrooms and go trip sack and make some memories, but when it's every day, it gets tiring. It really does. So I started to kind of wean myself off. And finally, after a couple months of really having a difficult time being sober, I overcame this feeling of almost purgatory that I had. Ever since getting sober, I had this really weird feeling where I almost had no emotions. It's like I was numb. Things weren't exciting or fun, but things also weren't sad or disappointing. I just kind of didn't fucking care about things. And, I had a really difficult time with finding joy in the things that I normally liked doing. I would sit down and try to play some video games, and I just wouldn't get anything out of it. I would try to go hang out with friends, and I'd just be sitting there bored, barely contributing to the conversation. It was a really difficult time for me at first because I felt like I didn't really know who I was without drugs. Like, I didn't really know how to feel about things, I had been reacting to things based off of my intoxicated mindset my entire life, pretty much. So it was really challenging for me to kind of sit there and adjust myself and be like, have these normal feelings when I'm sober, And for a while, I couldn't really do that. And eventually, I discovered the magic of shrooms. Now, for a long time, I just microdosed these in very small amounts. And I'm not saying this to encourage you guys to do the same. I'm just saying what worked for me. And honest to God, after I started microdosing, it almost felt like the energy came back into me, I don't microdose as much anymore, but there was a period for a while where I was microdosing pretty much every day, right? And I was really, really enjoying myself. I started to actually enjoy what I was doing, enjoy playing video games. The weed was hitting again, It was enough for me for the first time in forever. I felt like a lot of times the weed would just kind of make me fiend a little less, but now I was starting to really just enjoy getting stoned and enjoy life, The microdosing, honest to God, I feel like in a weird way, it helped me become me again, if that makes sense, Like, it really helped me find who I was and enjoy things again, and realize that I don't need drugs to have a good time with everything, Hey, a little bit of shrooms, that'll enhance the time. But listen, I had a really hard time with that for a long time, and the answer for me ended up just being microdosing, I still think about coke, and I still think about relapsing often. Honestly, just today, I was thinking about earlier how nice it would be to pop a fucking bar. But it's become a lot easier to deal with those thoughts, you know? It's something where I don't feel this physical urge to act on it. It's more so just a passing thought that I can address. I can think about and be like, yeah, that would be nice. Whatever, let's move on, Hey, let's go spark a joint. It's become a lot easier over time. And obviously, I'm not quite done with my, I guess you could call it sober journey. That's kind of cringe. No, let's not call it that. I'm not done with my quest, all right? No, that's even worse, bro. I don't know, dude. Listen, hey, we got a long way to go, but so far, so good, I felt it was important to make this video because I know a lot of you guys out there are probably like my younger self, and a lot of you guys probably relate to my stories, but, sobriety isn't the worst thing ever. That's the only message I'm trying to send here. Cali sobriety, of course. Hey, we still getting faded. Hey, we still off the shroomies, brother. But hey, we chilled on a lot of the dangerous shit. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Don't forget to head over to goblin420.com and get your hands on some holiday merch. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, gamers.